Bam. Hey friend, how's it going? Julia here today for another lovely video. Although today's topic is going to be a little lighter, a little more playful, a little more joyous, I like to believe, because today we are talking about empowerment and specifically empowerment within the relationship. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. Again, it could be a relationship with a family member, or it could be a relationship with a coworker. But the basis here is how to help you feel more empowered within the relationships that you are in, including the relationship with yourself. So this is actually the main relationship that this is going to be focusing on. And part of the reason that empowerment is the topic of conversation today. So in my own journey, I've often gone back and forth between, am I an empowerment coach or am I a relationship coach? Because it was so clear to me that these two things were intertwined. And it was actually the work of Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt that helped me understand that when a conflict is happening in a relationship, the number one reason for that is because there is some kind of power struggle that is happening. So maybe there are two different opinions that want to be expressed, but because of the dynamic, maybe the level of conversation, the level of self-awareness that people have, there is some kind of block in allowing people to come to some kind of agreement. And this is why the conflict exists. This is why we often butt heads and struggle to find peace and resolve within those contexts. So one of the ways that I see this coming up, and I tend to focus more on working with women in my own coaching practice. However, I do find this information is also relevant to men. So please just take what works for you. And, just because I say like man or woman or he or she or male, female, like just take what resonates for you. So in the world that we live in today, there is this common theme in our society, and we especially see this when you watch like any Disney movie, that women are seen as being less powerful than our men. You have the damsel in distress, and then there's the hero that comes in to save the day. And like it or not, this programming does come into our minds. This is something that shows up. And even if it's just on a subconscious level, I do believe that if you are a woman today, that there is some work that can be done around helping you to feel more powerful within your relationships, so that the way that you try to remedy that within yourself, it doesn't create like negative or a harmful impact on the person that you're maybe trying to feel more of an equal to. Okay, so I've noticed for myself, and in a lot of the like coaching sessions that I've had with different women, that there is this aspect of not feeling valuable or not feeling like an equal in those relationships, or not necessarily like recognizing your own worth as a woman. And oftentimes, when we think of the Disney dynamic, there is this story being sold to women that you are incomplete unless you are in a relationship. And again, there's like people that kind of have this mentality or this aspect of just not feeling whole. Like they want a relationship because they want to feel whole, they want to feel complete. And this, I truly believe, is one of the areas that leaves us open to being taken advantage of, or perhaps overlooking certain warning signs or red flags that are obviously there, but we're willing to look past them because we want to be in a relationship. We want to have an experience of feeling whole and complete because that's what society tells us we need. ways that we often end up remedying this. So if there is a core belief that I am not enough as I am incomplete as I am, or that there is something wrong with me as I am, we're going to look for something external to remedy that more often than not. So this often looks like addiction, and it could be like a substance addiction, but it could also be like a love addiction or a sex addiction. It could be a food addiction is a really common one. But essentially it'll be something external from the self that we will seek to find so that we feel more empowered. And when I work with clients in a relationship, and maybe they are currently in a relationship and they just want to feel more empowered, they want to find their voice, they want to feel more connected with their partner, or maybe it's someone who isn't in a relationship and they are looking for someone. Either way, the way that I help to empower women isn't by, teaching them how to resolve conflict, isn't necessarily how to communicate, but it's on focusing on their own sense of empowerment, their own internal strength. And I truly believe that relationships in general, because there is this idea that, if I'm if I'm not holding complete, I need someone to complete me. But really, relationships, the best relationships happen when there is someone who believes that they are whole, complete, they are like a divine human, and that person comes together with another human that believes that they are whole and complete and a divine human. It's not necessarily that we need someone else to complete us. It's that when there are two fully embodied humans coming together, that is when the most beautiful relationships are able to be created. But we often have this kind of dependent or codependent dynamic that is what creates the struggles more often than not. So the question I like to ask is, how can you as a person feel more empowered in your own life so that you aren't constantly seeking something external in order to feel that? And in answering this question, one of the main philosophies or principles that I always come back to was something someone had told me, and I don't specifically remember if it was to shamanism or just indigenous practices in general, but there is a belief in certain indigenous societies that if a person is diseased or if they are sick, it is actually because they are disconnected from their own power. And when I say power, what I'm specifically referring to is the gut, the core. So this, the ways that we experience this is that if you have a strong core, a strong sense of self, a strong sense of self-discipline, self-worth, self-esteem, these are all things that are related to your core. If you eat healthy, you nurture your body with foods that are actually nutritious. They aren't just empty calories. You're drinking enough water throughout the day. You get a healthy amount of sleep. These are all things that are actually going to help you feel more empowered in your day-to-day life. Now, if you're a person that maybe isn't really sure if it's a self-esteem issue, some of the ways that this does show up is not seeing the beauty in the world. So maybe everything, if you're kind of depressed, or there's almost this gray tinge to the world, the opposite of the rose-colored glasses, or you just don't trust yourself. And this is especially true, I've found, of people who have been in abused or abusive relationships in the past, that they often have a certain mistrust with themselves because their judgment was off, or they had, they trusted their instinct, but then it proved not to be as accurate or as true as they wanted. So they've created this mistrust with themselves. And so one of the ways to help bring that back is, again, coming to your own center, your own core. This is also known in like different yogic practices as well as your own inner fire or your sacred intelligence. So we all have this within us, but for whatever reason in today's society, we often look to certain experts or like people who have different expertise rather than necessarily checking in with our own sacred intelligence first. And I just love seeing people start to turn this around and start to question those external sources, because you never know what another person's motivation is, but you can be pretty sure what your own motivation is. And I really just like I ask you, and like, yeah, I want to stress the importance of how sacred your own wisdom is. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for that sometimes. So I'm just happy to be that reminder for you. So what are some other things? Oh, right. If you don't value yourself or you don't value the work that you bring to the world, that can also be a sign or an indication that there is some inner work that needs to be done. And I refer to this more as the solar plexus, just because I work in the realm of like yoga and that kind of philosophy. But if that doesn't resonate for you, that's fine. It just is a word that I like to use because it resonates and I find very beautifully just connects all of these different aspects. If you're a person who has gut issues, digestive issues, if you feel very like sluggish or maybe kind of lazy, we'll say, or lacks self-discipline or commitment to yourself, these are all signs and indications that there just might be an opportunity here to begin to strengthen this inner muscle. So one of the best ways to do this is by beginning to develop that self-discipline that you have with yourself. And so I'm going to suggest 3 activities that you can do that will help you begin to build that trust with yourself again. So at its very like basic way of doing this, it would just be a meditation. And I'm going to recommend even 3 minutes every day. So if you can do one thing for 3 minutes every day for 28 days, you will absolutely experience an increase in self-esteem. You will absolutely experience an increase in like faith and trust in yourself. You will absolutely start to feel more confident in the things that you do in life. And not only in that, but it will start to bleed out into the other areas. So at its very basic, the very first thing that I will recommend to you is to just take 3 minutes to sit in silence every day and focus on your core. Just focus on the area. It's like a little bit above your belly button, but kind of below your rib cage, around that area, below your chest. And just focus on that area. And imagine that there is a beautiful, bright, maybe yellow light shining from that area. And you can have your eyes closed, you can have them open, or maybe just kind of squinty. And just sit and breathe into that space. And just set a timer and give yourself permission to just take those 3 minutes to yourself. So that's the first thing. The second invitation that I would leave you with is to even put a hand on that area. And for the same 3 minutes, just start to breathe into that area and breathe specifically into your stomach. This is actually a really beautiful way to calm your nervous system. So if you are feeling stressed, if you are feeling overwhelmed, this breathing exercise, just breathing into your belly, will help you start to calm down, start to regulate your nervous system more. So that is another modification for that. The third way that you can start to practice this trust in yourself, this faith in yourself, and feeling more empowered is with the fire breath, so fire breathing technique. This is done, I think, through the nose, so it's more of a sharp exhale. The inhale happens automatically, and it's all through the stomach. So it's like a sharp inhale through the stomach, and as you inhale, and then the exhale happens automatically. So it would kind of look like this. And you do that for 3 minutes every day for 28 days, and I guarantee you will start to notice that strength. So I'm going to actually give you a fourth kind of bonus one. I'm not going to dive into how to actually do this practice, but it's one of my favorites, which is the Sat Kriya from Kundalini Yoga. This one is a little more intense, but I definitely recommend just finding a YouTube video that explains it a little bit more. It's not recommended if you are on your, like in your menstrual phase, to be doing that practice. So if you are choosing a practice to do for the 28 days, like 3 minutes every day, if that is the practice you're choosing, I would just give yourself permission not to do the root lock for that time that you are menstruating if you're, a woman or a person who has periods. Or you could even insert one of those other practices that I mentioned instead. But honestly, it's my favorite, like one of my favorite Kriyas. And 3 minutes is the minimum that they recommend, but it can go up to like 28 or 21 minutes, something like that. So yeah, just play around with this week, and honestly, just make the commitment to yourself. Make the commitment that you are going to show up for yourself, and see how your relationships start to transform as a result of that. Because when you feel more confident, you feel more beautiful, you feel like you can actually show up for yourself, you're not going to need it from anyone else. Like, you are not going to need it from anyone else in your life, because you will know that you've got you. And this is how we start to come together as whole, complete humans, rather than looking for someone else to fill some kind of void. All right. So I just want to leave you with that. I hope you know how beautiful, how shiny, how bright and intelligent you are as a human. And I am so proud of you for finding this wisdom within yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much peace and much love. Namaste.